Hi guys. How's everybody doing? I hope you're having a good night. Gonna do a stream here just for the hell of it. Um, gonna get this tweeted out. Probably gonna talk to some folks. We'll see. If not, I'll just do the 8 values test. Anyways, I got in an argument. It's sort of an argument. I don't really know. Um, with a tanky tonight. He commented on my video, or not on my video on Twitter. He's like, "Yeah, this video sucks," which is fine. That's how it goes. DM me if you wanna talk. There you go. If you want to get in here, just DM me on Twitter, and maybe I'll add you. Um, yeah. Anyways, he quote tweets my video and is like, "It sucks." He cites Timothy Snyder. I'm guessing that guy's taboo in the what do we call it community, the tanky community, because he talks about the war crimes of the Soviet Union, which is anathema. You're not allowed to do that amongst those people. But yeah, and then of course he goes, "Debate me." It's like, why? Actually, I guess I shouldn't assume this person's gender. I don't know. Didn't know if it was a man or a woman. I'm just guessing. Most people who defend the Soviet Union on the internet are dudes. But yeah, that was I didn't know it was the anniversary of the Hitler-Stalin Pact, Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, the non-aggression principle deal. So this was the video I made was supposed to come out on Friday, but I was like, I always post a video on Tuesday, and since it's the anniversary and since I talk about it, I'll just post this one today, and then obviously Tuesday's video will be on Friday. I think that one's a decent one too. It's about Nina Turner of all people. Theron, check your DMs on Twitter. You can come on in. But yeah, so pretty quiet night. I know there are elections tonight, and I know that Laura Loomer lost. I don't think there was too much at what do you call it? I didn't think there were too many like significant races. Obviously, Florida was one of the states. And let's see here. Election night. But I think most of the races were more or less decided or were pretty well known beforehand. Excuse me. Okay. I don't know. But yeah, Laura Loomer losing was the important thing because she is a lunatic. Yeah, I've I posted on Twitter. I'm putting this Lego castle together. It cost me $400, which is outrageous, but it reminds me of my childhood, so it's worth every penny. It's like 4,000 pieces, and it's the age they have is 18 plus, which it's because there's a strip club in the castle. So, anyways, but yeah, I got to thinking, I'm like, isn't this essentially just a dollhouse for boys? I don't know. I guess what's the difference? Other than maybe because it's populated with knights, that it's for boys. I don't know. Hey,
Hello. Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
so is it pronounced Theron or is it Theroon?
Taran. For some reason, my parents decided to put a H in my name. Well,
Okay,
so I'm a little confused by that.
guys. So
But
that's your real name.
yeah.
Okay. It's no, I'm not making fun of it. It is not a conventional name, especially not for an Englishman.
Uh, well, I think. Well, I think you could probably tell my name is probably like an immigrant name. Like my parents are from Sri Lanka, so I guess that kind of makes sense.
Oh yeah, fair enough. But yeah, Theron makes my thumbnails. So obviously not for the last few videos because you've been in the United States and Canada, right?
Yeah, actually, the reason why I've been able to be like on this stream is because like of the same time zones. although like I'm a little interested in, I don't know, do you have like work tomorrow? Because if so, that wouldn't it be like, I don't know, maybe a 6 hours sleep?
I don't know. I'm staying up late tonight, so
Okay.
yeah. But what's happening? How was your trip to America? Well, I guess you're still there. So how's
Well,
everything
actually,
there?
I'm in Canada, but like, yeah, to America it was only like for a few days. Visiting like, yeah, I have cousins all over North America on my mom's side, and I was only able to like visit there like for a few days, 2 days there, like, and the other 2 days pretty much just a journey, like an 8 hour journey between Canada and America. Like, I can see why you guys like basically take like planes between states.
Yeah, it's a big country. And just,
Hmm.
I've been to Canada just briefly. Um but yeah, it's even bigger.
Yeah, and since it was only 2 days, I could only be in like New York and New Jersey. Yeah, but I guess one like noticeable thing, and I think you probably like slightly mentioned this in your like videos, is that the houses like are much bigger than in Europe. Like, Canada, in the houses in Canada and America, like much bigger, especially with the basements. But even then, like they're wider.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Although,
you guys have like row houses in parts of England
yeah,
anyways. Not that we don't have those in certain cities of America, but I think they're more common over there.
yeah. Although I've only been to like New York and New Jersey, so I probably have like a limited like view of things.
Well, New Jersey is the most densely populated state in the United States. And I'm what part of New York were you in? New York City?
Well, I'm not even sure. Well, I managed to like see the New York Times building. I saw the Statue of Liberty, like the Empire State Building. Yeah, what else? Oh yeah, the New York Stock Exchange. Yes, basically some of the tourist areas.
Gotcha. But yeah, it's that excuse me. That's a pretty densely populated area. Hey,
Hello.
yeah. Eversol Board. Okay. I'm assuming that's not your real name. This is what's happening, dude?
What's up?
Hey,
I didn't know
you're gonna
this is going on.
have to
That's
fix
so
your
cool.
audio. If you want to talk, you're gonna have to fix that audio, dude.
Yeah, this sounds
What's
like
on
Chipmunks meets a robot.
Yes.
Okay, 1 second.
Talk like a normal person or you're getting booted. Russia is bigger, yes it is, but that's also largely uninhabitable because it's so fucking cold up there. That's actually true with most of Canada though, too.
Yeah, I actually messed up like my, or like had very little choice like for my videos, since I was basically like editing like without my laptop. So, and like I couldn't find any like decent like audio editing software. So yeah, I guess that kind of like hurt my video.
Hey, it is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've tried editing on the phone before and it's not for me.
yeah,
I need the
yeah,
computer.
yeah.
But gotcha. So you're in the Western Hemisphere for what, 2 weeks?
Yeah, but like I'm pretty much like leaving like this Thursday, so yeah, my 2 weeks are nearly up anyway.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, what'd you think of it?
It's pretty alright. I guess the like one problem is like it's kind of like the same in a way like with the UK and I assume Australia and like probably a lot of the other like industrial countries, in that you have a lot of like options. I mean, like, you have a lot of like the same restaurants, like the same like roads, like street like posts, like it would be much more different like if I say like gone to like India or the Middle East or Africa, because I'd at least notice much of a difference. But I get no, but I guess that's one of the tiny like quote unquote downsides of like the neoliberal like capitalism, which is you're all there's like less diversity, but I guess that's the cost of like being richer, I
It's
guess.
homogenizing.
Yeah.
Okay. I am going to take the 8 values test. Do you want to take it with me?
Oh wait, what test?
8 values.
Oh, okay.
All right. Yeah.
Oh.
Let's see here.
Okay.
Just answer the questions with me or whatever.
Okay, yeah. Because I don't think I'm able to like multitask that much on. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Let's see here. How do we start this? I'm stupid. Next. Oh wait. Back. Okay. Gun ownership should be prohibited for those without a valid reason. I disagree.
Yeah, I guess disagree.
I think gun ownership should be a right, and everybody has the right to self-defense, and that is a valid reason.
Yeah, like, I'm pretty sure for me, and like the inverse, it's probably like maybe like mental illness or like criminal like convictions. So yeah.
Yeah, if you've been institutionalized, like they can prevent you from gun ownership here in the United States, which I don't think is a crazy position. So
yeah,
the United Nations should be abolished. I think the United Nations as is a terrible institution. But I think something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna say the same thing as you, but like we might as well need some kind of like it's union of like nations. But I do think maybe like its role should be like diminished somewhat.
I mean, I think it's largely discredited itself. But
Yeah.
I think some international institution of that sort would be useful. Yeah, but I think it would be better to be like a League of Democracies or something like that. But I'm just going to disagree for now because it's what we have. Gun ownership. Oh, wait. What? I thought we already did this one. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Military action by our nation is often necessary to protect it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it depends, but yeah, sure.
You're right.
You keep on. Yeah.
Back again. Is it important that we maintain the traditions of our past? I don't know. It's like some traditions are definitely good, some are bad.
Depends.
Yeah, it depends.
I mean,
I don't know.
It makes more sense for me to say yes, but yeah, again, depends.
I'm gonna go with a neutral position.
But actually, I guess from a more conservative, like political perspective, and this is more like from an Edmund Burke, you won't like get this from like from like say Paul Joseph Watson, but like it's important to maybe like focus on our traditions because it's very hard to create a society, but very easy to destroy a society. So that's I guess the backbone of like conservative philosophy.
Sure. Reason is more important than maintaining our culture. I think your culture should be based on reason, in part, anyways. So I guess I'm gonna say, massively agree. Abortion should be prohibited in most or all cases. I disagree.
And I pretty much agree. So yeah, okay. I'm pretty much like full on agree. So yeah, that's the main difference.
Okay, let's see here. We got somebody else in the stream. Progressive Apostate. What's going on?
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you? What's up?
I'm doing fine. I think this is the first time that we've actually like spoken in person.
We've interacted on Twitter a few times, haven't we?
Yeah, we interact on Twitter quite a bit, but I don't know if I've actually like spoken to you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think I recognize you from, well, I assume Twitter.
Yeah, I'm around.
And you're a progressive apostate. You are no longer of the left. Is that what I'm picking up on?
Yeah. I'm so glad you picked up on that because like so many people don't get that.
You're like Dave Rubin. You
Yeah. I used to be on the left, and now I'm a conservative. Well, no, okay. I wouldn't say I'm a conservative by any stretch, but I'm not a progressive.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see. We're just taking the test. So I'm the one answering the question, so I'm just answering for myself. But pitch on in whenever on what you think. Okay. Quality education is a right of all people. Again, declaring something a right doesn't make it a reality. So I guess like that's an ideal to shoot for. but you can't
Yeah.
just make it. You can't will it into existence. So I'm going to disagree. Environmental regulations are essential. Oh, this is a good one. I actually slightly agree because I think obviously you can overregulate, but with a lot of environmental questions, you do have like it's not nobody can own the air, so you can't have like private property being the regulation there. So if somebody's
Mhm.
spewing gas or whatever into the air that we all breathe, you need some sort of rule on that. So including a polluter, or maybe like some sort of polluter pay sort of thing. So that's what I think. It is important to maintain our national sovereignty. I definitely agree with that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, definitely no arguments there.
Yeah, I mean,
It probably depends on which country you're asking from.
Well, and I suppose
like in Britain.
some people would say that our the immigration system in the United States, where we do have a decent amount of illegal flow of people, would be undermining our system of sovereignty. Or, I guess it depends on like I think sovereignty in and of itself is a good ideal. So it is important that we think in the long term beyond our lifespans. Sure. Why not? I mean, like,
Yeah, I guess like people ask this because like I don't know, right, how do I say this? Like you can probably care about your children, your grandchildren, and maybe your great grandchildren, but after a while, like with your great grandchildren, you just think, okay, what's the point? Like at that point, it'll just I don't know, it'll be too much like I don't know work to like but in terms of like long term like government policy. I don't know. I guess maybe it makes sense, but in the next like 5,000 years, it'll be a lot harder to care. I guess that's more relevant to the question.
sure. I know that like think of the children is the way that certain people like to shoehorn a lot of bullshit into government. But in general, yeah, I think that like longevity is that should be
Yeah,
valid.
I don't necessarily look at the question as like a think of the children sort of notion.
Okay.
I view it as more of like what can I do in my life to make the world after I die a better place.
Have a lasting impact is what you're saying. Okay, wait. No, you're not getting back in Eversol board. You fucked up. So sorry, dude. Government surveillance is necessary in the modern world. Necessary how? Like for safety? I guess that's I disagree. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
I
it
guess,
really
like,
depends on the context. It's a very hard question to answer, just a yes or no.
Right. I think that's more likely to be abused than it is to actually provide safety. I mean, I obviously I'm sure we can find examples of it making us safer, but I generally disagree.
Also like say terrorist attacks, which is say surveillance is meant to like prevent. They're like pretty like few, so to like they're like very little like without surveillance, like justify the surveillance in the first place.
Sure. Same-sex marriage should be legal.
Yep.
I agree. I don't have a problem with it. Okay. Easy. Drug use should be legalized or decriminalized.
Agreed.
I agree.
Yeah.
Hate it, but agree.
Two easy ones in a row.
Yeah. Government should be accountable to the international community. Again, this goes to the sovereignty question. Like how? What what exactly like
Yeah, what does accountability mean?
Right. It's like so if a nation like Russia invades their neighbor in such an egregious fashion, I don't mind other nations cracking down on them with sanctions and shipping weapons to their enemies. So I guess I'm going to say agree. But if you're talking about some like supranational organization that has undermined sovereignty in a meaningful way, then I'm going to say no. So
yeah, like if the question is talking about like the United States committing to like international organizations like their their jurisdiction. Yeah, like I would disagree with that, but in general, yeah, I would agree.
Okay. Children should be educated in religious or traditional values. I wouldn't do that, but if you want to do that, I don't care. I don't think should be a requirement, or is that all necessary?
I disagree. I mean, I'm with you on this. I mean, I think it's important. I think it's important to teach children like sort of a baseline level of understanding. Like, I think they should be aware of religious tradition,
Oh,
but
don't
I
have a
don't
problem
think
with
that
that,
they
yeah.
should be right. I don't. They definitely shouldn't be educated in it in the sense that they were being indoctrinated.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't want like government like forcing like your religion, but like I would prefer like a culture or like parents like teaching like traditional values or religious values.
If you want to do that in your own home, that's fine. Or if you
Yeah.
want to have a private school that does that, by all means,
Yeah.
you go ahead. It is better to maintain a balanced budget than to ensure welfare for all citizens. I agree.
Agree.
Yeah. I mean, like, when you're talking about that, you're talking about a social welfare state, which has its problems, we're talking about thinking about future generations or whatever. Well, guess what? Debt is one of those issues for future generations because they're the ones who are more likely going to have to pay for it. So next. It is necessary for the government to intervene in the economy to protect consumers. Disagree. Like, if somebody's committing fraud, I don't have a problem with that. But that's basically the only circumstances. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think like basic safety stuff should be in place?
I mean, I think like just basically preventing fraud, like making sure like you're like giving the service that you said. So like maybe in a contract, but like other than that, like very little like regulation, if any, for consumers.
Yeah, I think generally the government should err on the side not to intervene in the economy.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. A better world will come from automation, science, and technology. I mean, like, you can definitely come up with apocalyptic scenarios of that, but I think it's more likely to help us than it is to hurt us. So I'm going to strongly agree. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm not too worried about Skynet.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Like, but sometimes I think when I see this statement, like, who would disagree with this? But like, I've been on the internet, so I know who would disagree with this.
Yeah, I mean, like, what do you think about that Google algorithm that was like super smart or whatever? I don't know. Is that going to be the end of us all? I hope not.
Which algorithm are you referring to?
I forget it, but like, it was a news story about a month ago, and it was like sentient, and it was what do we call it? It was like being an asshole to the guy who created it.
They talk about like the technological singularity as being like this, like a super intelligent AI that can just do like deep learning. So they say that would be kind of like the end of all technology because it could, come up with new technologies and replicate itself and potentially do all those things. But I wouldn't be too worried about it. I think overall it's very easy. Like science is good.
Hopefully it serves our interests.
Yeah, technology is very good.
Okay. The general populace makes poor decisions. It depends on the context. Obviously, anybody in any context can make poor decisions. I think when you ask people to act collectively, they're very unlikely to think about what is best for the collective, such as it is. I think people are far better at making decisions individually than they are for everyone else. So I'm just going to stay neutral on this one. What do you guys think?
I agree.
think people are rational.
Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
Well, that's just it. People are rational. So you go ahead.
Okay, so I agree. I think the general populace does make poor decisions.
Okay.
I mean, you see it, I think, with voting trends. Like, I think the average person decides, like, how soon before the vote? Like 3 days?
See, but that like that is the rational decision to not put any thought into it. In fact, the rational decision would be not to vote at all because it's not like the outcome's going to change. Because
Yeah,
you
and
gave it-
I watched the video that you did on this. I think you called it like rational ignorance.
not my concept,
Yeah.
but yes, that's what it's called.
Yeah, exactly. So in that sense, yes, like I don't expect the general populace to have the kind of body of knowledge that people that are politically engaged like we are have going into the
Yeah.
election. But in the context of you're voting for, the person like, in the executive branch of government, like you want to have, I would think you want to have like a better depth of understanding of the choice you're going to make there.
Okay. Traditions are of no value on their own. I don't necessarily agree. I think Theron was saying earlier that it's harder to create a society than it is to destroy one. And that
Mhm.
if a tradition came about, it probably came about for a reason. So, but obviously there are traditions that are erroneous that we can ditch, I think. But
True.
those are my thoughts in general.
True, and to add, like traditions could also, they're kind of like a connection to like, our ancestors who we've like never seen or interacted with. It's kind of a sense of continuity, in a way. So that's another reason why we keep traditions.
There you go. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Steve,
Hello.
for having me on. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, what's
You,
up, Kevin?
We're just doing the 8 values test, so pitch on it. so,
Oh, man.
so that guy who was in here earlier keeps making fake accounts to try and get in. The guy, like, I don't know, dude, just give it up. He came in as Kyle Kalinske.
Man.
Oh man, I wish.
His full
You-
name.
Oh, wait, was that-
You guys want to know a really hefty political compass test? It's one I've been meaning to do for a while. It's the 9 axes 216 question version. Have you guys done that?
Holy shit. No, I haven't.
Yeah,
this is the
I
first I've
haven't had
heard
the
about
time.
That seems a bit daunting.
I did that about 2 years ago, and I told people that when I hit 1,000 subs, I would do it again. But it's so daunting, I haven't done it yet, and I've been past 1,000 for like 5 months, 6 months. So,
Are the questions super loaded on it like they are in the other one?
So as I recall from when I did it before, they're actually a little more precise and longer than your typical, like, your meme political compass questions. Like this one, I mean, okay, prostitution should be illegal. That's pretty precise. But a lot of them are like, ooh, corporations bad, that sort of thing,
Mhm.
So.
Okay. Anyways, back to the test. Prostitution should be illegal. I think that it should be legal. Hey,
Hard
somebody's
disagree.
there's an echo. One of you has the audio on. Just make sure you stick your headphones in or whatever.
Okay, well, let
Okay.
me just turn off.
Hard disagree. So that's my stance.
Base.
Same, hard disagree. Even though I hate prostitution.
Hey, I don't think it's necessarily a good thing, but I think it shouldn't be illegal. The freer the markets, the freer the people. Y'all know my
Yeah.
thoughts on this. We should open our borders to immigration. Oh, this is a good one. I am generally pro-immigration. I don't go as far as some people. Some people are outright like open borders, like anybody can come
Yeah.
across. I think that is a little extreme. I mean, like in an ideal world, that would be the best system, but I don't think we live in that world.
Well,
What do you guys
I support complete open borders within the Kansic countries like Canada, UK, Australia,
Oh.
New Zealand.
Mm.
Like I'm a big Kansic fan. Like I'm Canadian for people who
same.
don't know. So like I focus on that a little bit. For the U.S., I don't think it makes sense to have open borders with Mexico right now. My solution to that issue is to, help out countries in Central America, take out the drug cartels, that sort of stuff, and help get them on their feet. So there's no reason to try to come to the U.S. But I don't believe in full like open borders or anything unless you're similar economic status and similar on a cultural level where it's not going to be an issue so much. Otherwise, I'm for a points-based immigration system that's, like racial, geographically neutral, where anybody can come. But I do think that the countries that have the same head of state and a very close history would probably be better off as a common market. And so that's why I prefer, say, Kanzik to the EU, that sort of thing. And we need to make it happen. So
Interesting. Kansas. This is the first I've heard of it.
Oh.
Yeah. I also support like the Kanzik trade. Well, kind of a trade deal, but it's a lot more than that. For similar reasons to Kevin, although like I don't actually like have a position on immigration right now because I can't tell whether I'm against it or like for it. But like all I know right now is that like the right wing's like disagreements with immigration based on like economic reasons. There's very little like evidence for that. Like, and that's because like to believe in that you'd have to believe in the fixed pie fallacy, which is weird since they're generally economically right wing. So.
Well, I think the thing about immigration that's important is a lot of people look at it and they get kind of spooked by the idea, ooh, there's people that are going to be coming in and competing or whatever. But it's like, in reality, life is a competition. And so my view of it is immigration ultimately should be something that serves the country and where immigrants that come are able to be successful. So that's why I like a points-based immigration system. And we have that in Canada. Australia has it where, it's basically if you got a degree, if you've got an in-demand job, say you need more welders or more doctors, that sort of thing, you have a leg up over other applicants. And it works out really well because it basically means that, yeah, you might have like some language issues at the start or whatever, but for the most part, you're going to be able to settle in properly and you're going to be pretty successful. In fact, in Canada, immigrants tend to do better than the average population. And part of that is because, the immigrants that Canada is looking for are really successful people. It doesn't matter where you're from. What it matters is, are you hardworking and are you skilled, right?
Mhm.
So, and are you able to contribute? Because, that's the kind of the point of multiculturalism in Canada is it's like, well, we want the most skilled people. We don't really, care whether they're from like India or Argentina or something. What matters is like, are you a hard worker? That sort of thing. So, which you'd think would be a pretty appealing sort of idea to a lot of, conservative work ethic. But the problem is most people's opposition to it where it exists either comes from a really staunch degree of racism, or it comes from this just wanting to own what they see as like the elites that generally support immigration. So,
Okay, so I probably am less pro immigration than you, Kevin, but I'm gonna say. Okay, question 24. Basic utilities like road and electricity should be publicly owned. I mean, I guess with a lot of the utilities and infrastructure, they have a natural monopoly. So you kind of have to have them be publicly owned. But I'm just going to go slightly agree.
Yeah, Alfred Marshall talked a little bit back in the day about natural monopolies and why some industries were set up like that. And basically the case is it's going to be a monopoly no matter what. So in that case, you might as well have public ownership over it so that, it affects people's lives, so.
Sure. What do you guys think?
I guess like maybe for roads, like at least maybe mostly publicly owned, but I'm definitely like fine with some like privately like owned roads. I think Eric July has like talked about this, but like I don't know much about like the market for like electricity. So I don't
That's the
have much of
thing.
a position on that.
And my presupposition is that you're inevitably going to have natural monopolies, just because, like, I live in an apartment building. I don't know how many roads you could possibly build to it. Maybe I'm just lacking creativity in my thinking, but is Eric July the one who said "fuck them hoe ass roads"?
Yeah, like, and then Sam Seder pretty much, used that clip when nothing else. Although, like, I have to give credit to like Eric, since he's one of the few people who respond to like Sam Seder, which makes me hate like a certain few other like conservatives even more for I don't know, like chickening out but trying to like run away from Sam Seder. I don't need to mention any names, but yeah.
Sure, I think we know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Regardless of political opinions, it is important to side with your country. No, I think if your country's doing something wrong, you should disagree with it. But
Yeah, this is the justification for like Russia right now and also America in the Iraq War. So no.
uh-oh. You just
Wait. Like I don't like. I'll say this. I don't want to derail Steve's political compass here. So what I'll say to Taryn is that is a gross and egregious false equivalence, and I would be interested in debating you on that on my channel. But I'm not gonna. I'm not going to take away from this, but you're dead wrong there to equate a liberating a fascist dictatorship with democracy versus a fascist dictatorship invading a democracy to subjugate it.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't mind discussing it with you, since I don't know, I guess like I'm not as knowledgeable, so yeah, I'd love to like hear your point on it. But although I think
basically you're wrong, so
although like I think oh no, wait, no, I think like either you or someone else maybe said that you were like actually no, wait, I think like someone like said like the US was wrong in the Iraq War, like, and I thought that was you, but I don't know, maybe that either you changed your mind or like I heard some other like neoliberals / neoconservatives say that.
I'm not a neoliberal. No, that was somebody else. I've famously I supported the war. Like, I was the only kid in my middle school that was pro the Iraq War when it started. Like, I was for that war since March 2003. I was for it beforehand, and I've been for it ever since. So
okay, I guess I have to like respect you for holding a position in like when you're like I don't know, like in a school which is a pretty liberal place, and when you're young, where it's even more like, well, I mean, progressive. So yeah, you'd probably like have to deal with a lot more like opposition. So I guess respect for that. Also, I forgot
I had to deal with relativists. I had to deal with people that are for gay rights and feminism for white people in Canada, and said, well, flip brown Iraqis, they can live under Saddam forever. The bad guy is Dick Cheney. So
yeah, when I said that, I forgot that we had one of the more like liberal hawks. So I would love to like discuss with you, but I guess we're derailing this now.
We're a little bit derailing this, but yes, I've been called the king of liberal hawks, so I'm happy to have that debate. So
all right.
Yeah, it was very restrained, Kevin.
Yeah, it was. I appreciate.
The debate won't be. The debate won't be. I can tell you that. So the debate will be wild.
Either way, if your country's wrong, you really should say so.
Yeah, it's blind nationalism.
Yeah, it's jingoism. It's like all the Vatniks basically in Russia. They're like, Putin. It's like, Russia big. It's like, okay, but what does Russia stand for? I said this before. If Canada went to the crapper, I would get out. Like, I wouldn't stay here if we became communist. I would go somewhere else, I wouldn't just be like, oh, I love Canada, so I guess I have to be a comrade now. I'd be like, nope. So
it is more important to retain peaceful relations than to further our strength.
Hard disagree.
I'm going to slightly disagree. I'm not as hawkish as you, Kevin.
Wait, let's see. I don't know. I guess I'd say like strength through peace, like strength through like allies, like peace. But I guess it depends on the like allies, but like maybe allying with more like liberal countries will increase like your like overall like power, military powers and like ideology. So I guess I'd
Well,
be
it's
more on
not.
the agree side.
It's not strength through peace. It's peace through strength. It's the idea that if the United States has like a strong network of allies and like a firm, stable presence around the world, that it's naturally going to lead to a more stable and secure world. So in that aspect, like, yeah, I'm right about where Stephen is on this question.
Well, I think the question specifically though is actually even a bit more simple than that. It's simply asking if you had to choose between the two, which is more important. If you had to choose between amicable relations, say with China or Russia, versus you invest in your military so that potentially triggers an arm race or whatnot. What do you do? I would say you're better off having readiness than you are trying to maintain peace with countries that one day wish to bury you once they're able to.
Fair enough. It is very important to maintain a law and order. Sure. I
Yeah.
think the laws, I'm obviously not a big, I don't think a lot of things should be illegal that are currently, but the laws you have, you should enforce. Like,
Yep.
not looking the other way when some people commit crimes, then enforcing a hard line on other people is a bad recipe.
Yeah. Also, maintaining law and order pretty much allows for stability, and stability allows for business creation, which leads to more economic growth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like one of the underpinnings of like society. Like you need that level of trust and security in order for like any sort of economy to function at all.
Yeah, an open society that doesn't have a strong commitment to law and order will become Lord of the Flies and fall apart and fall into fascism. So.
But I'll be the one with the conch shell, so it's all good.
Well, everybody thinks that they'll be the great leader.
Right. The very existence of the state is a threat to liberty. No, I think the state is necessary for liberty. So,
Based.
I think this is, I guess, a bit of a like attack on ANCAPs, but like if you remove the state, you'll get like basically a bunch of like gangs like that will control, which will act like a state. So like
yeah,
yeah.
We're not ANCAPs here.
it's another Lord of the Flies situation.
Yeah, although I do have an ANCAP friend, and he's also pretty much against some of like Kevin's like foreign policy positions.
Most
Is
ANCAPs
that
are.
who is that? I've debated a bunch of them.
I don't
That
think you've
Flint?
debated this one. His name is Mikhail the Stray Cat. Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Okay, I believe it or not, I've never actually heard of him before, and I've debated more ANCAPs than any other ideology. So that's interesting. Okay.
Research should be conducted on an international scale. Isn't this how we got coronavirus? I don't mind collaboration across borders in this respect. So yeah, there you go. I don't mind that.
Apparently, Rand Paul accused Fauci of gain of function research. So who knows? I haven't been looking into it.
Neither have I.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I would agree. I would go all the way. I think it's like when it comes to like scientific research, it's like a collaborative effort.
Fair enough. You persuaded me.
Oh, very
I'll
nice.
agree. Next, sex outside of a marriage is immoral. I mean, it can be. Is it inherently immoral? No.
Well, I'm probably the only one here that would inherently agree with this. So
Okay. Well,
I hard disagree. Marriage is a paper contract. So at the end of the day, so
Kevin, you've persuaded me. There we go.
Yeah.
I mean,
no,
like,
I'm
having an
also, like,
affair
hard
is I would say having an affair is immoral and that's sex outside of marriage, but just two adults having sex and they're not married and they don't have other commitments, I don't have a problem with that. So I'm going to say hard disagree.
yeah, but the problem is the same people that would usually agree to that statement are the people who want to make it harder for people to do a lot of experimenting when they're younger to find the right partner that they don't want to cheat on. You know what I'm saying? So if you have an open sexual culture, people are only going to marry people once they're ready, once they're fully into it. If you have a very closed one like theists want to establish or retain, then everybody's just going to marry so that they can get laid. And that's a problem. That's a recipe for divorce. So.
The means of production should be owned by the workers who use them.
Yeah, we're not communists here either.
I mean, like, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem
Yeah.
with like a bunch of people collecting their resources and opening a worker-owned cooperative. On
Yeah,
their own,
co-ops are
but
fine.
If you, but
yeah,
like,
yeah,
putting a gun to my
Yeah,
head and saying you need to run your business democratically is not something I'm.
No, I
Yeah.
want no part of the decision making of the business I'm in.
Right.
yeah. Even Adam Smith agreed with co-ops.
But yeah, if people want to form one of their own volition and their own free will with their own resources, you go right ahead.
Yeah, go
Well, yeah,
right ahead.
banning
Yeah,
co-ops is
invest your
anti-free
own
market.
resources
In
with
a
like
free
the
market
risk of like
capitalist society, you can do that.
yeah, with the risk of like 50% business failure within 5 years.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
well,
it's risky
startups.
It's a risky
Startups,
proposition, anyways. Starting a business, so
Yeah, startups tend to have a 70% failure rate. So if co-ops are 50%, that's actually better than a non-co-op startup. So
okay. Society was better many years ago than it is now. Hard disagree.
disagree.
Any
I
pushback?
think each generation has its own problems. Like you get some problems in, you get some problems solved there.
Definitely. I generally think that I consider myself a rational optimist, as Matt really called himself. I hope that I'm rational. I'm at least optimistic. But yeah, generally speaking, on most fronts, things get better. That doesn't mean that that's inevitable, but I think it is how the trajectory of how things have gone thus far.
Yeah, in the context like relative like where we are now relative to the rest of history, I think the trajectory is clearly an upward one.
Yes. Next. Those with greater ability to pay should receive better health care.
agree.
Agreed. I think that
Maybe like I'm researching into like some healthcare systems, but I definitely hate the NHS here. Like I'm thinking of maybe like Singapore, but again, I still need to research that one.
I think this is true of anything. If you have the money, you should be able to pay for better shit, and that overall
yeah,
makes things better.
Yeah, if you have the money, you should be allowed to like get better healthcare.
Okay. The sacrifice of some civil liberties is necessary to protect us from active terrorism. I mean,
Agree.
I do think it's a trade-off. I know people like Ron Paul don't think it is, but is it a trade-off worth making? Like, I think those are two separate questions, and I think it's asking is as to an odd question, the sacrifice of some. I'm going to stay neutral on it. What do you guys think? I know, Kevin, you agree with it.
Yeah. Like I support the Patriot Act, and I'll debate anybody on that if they want. So.
Yeah, that's something I think we should also like debate on when I'm discussing with you. So,
Well, we gotta keep them under 90 minutes, and the Iraq War alone is going to be probably a big one. So
It's going to need to be a
Okay.
two-parter.
There
yeah,
you
we'll,
go.
okay, yeah,
Already
we'll
got a
see.
quick debate. Okay. I support single payer universal health care. Hard to disagree. That's just me. I think
Again, probably not, but I'm still researching, and Singapore might be like the best option for private healthcare since I don't know, like the US definitely it's I wouldn't consider it a free market, but I'm not sure if I'm willing to go to like a free market for healthcare. Like,
I think we should move to a system where health insurance is used much more like car insurance, and that most people pay for most of their care out of pocket.
yeah, I think having as a public option a so-called universal system where it's private contractors as doctors, it's not like the NHS, but where the government has a public insurance system is effective. Basically, imagine Canadian healthcare, but how I would do it is I would have a private option available so you don't have to wait 6 hours in the emergency room or 6 months for surgery if you have the money. So I think there should be a private tier and a public tier. That's kind of my view.
Okay. Government intervention is a threat to the economy. Yes.
Generally agree.
Anybody else?
I mean, if there's a negative externality that requires government intervention, it can actually make things better on the whole. But on the whole, most government interventions tend to be counterproductive empirically. So,
Okay. Publicly funded research is more beneficial than leaving it to the private market. I think some publicly funded research can do good, but I think he would get it regardless. If the government didn't do it, private sector would step up. In fact, there's an argument that it crowds out private investment. So I'm kind of talking myself into a hard disagree. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm neutral on it because the public has to do it on strategic military research that wouldn't make sense for private companies to invest in. So like the internet back in the day before it was profitable, that sort of stuff, you know?
You've moved me.
For security reasons. Like, because here's the thing, right? I'm of the view that in the economy at large, there are only a few areas where the government should have like a main focus, and that's the military, that's security, and that's like firefighting and basic medical care. And the military in particular is the biggest one for me because, as Machiavelli wrote even 500 years ago, not only will the free market not keep the national interest at heart, but it will actually sell itself out to foreign powers. He used the French, for example, in times of war. They'll just sell to the highest bidder and then screw you over. So I think it should be done by the government, and I think that it should be under wraps as well by the government. I'm aware that Lockheed and Boeing and others, when they engage in military contracts and development, are basically bound by, you know, U.S. laws regarding secrets, but corporate corruption has still happened. Stuff has still been sold to China. It's not all hacking. And so I think the more of that you keep under the government on the experimental side, the bigger advantage you're going to have. And the government's not going to sell it to Russia, you know? Maybe some corrupt politician might, but then you deal with them there. You're not having an institutional failure. So that's why I'm 100% on this for the military, and then basically zero on anything else where the free market does it better.
Well, to be fair to what's his face, Machiavelli, you can't trust the French.
Yeah, I think the research stuff might be like similar to media, where like maybe the more popular, like, you know, research rather than the necessary research would be like you know, used rough and let's see, like any, like, you know, but the what thing is, while I would support, like, you know, being a bit more libertarian with the media, with research it's a lot more necessary to society than like media reporting. I mean, journalism is important, but like research is way more important. So maybe there should be a certain level for, like, say, public universities or government, like doing research, especially for security reasons, since, you know, other states will do their own government, like, you know, research to adapt their own technologies in the military and whatnot. So you know, we would have to, in order to, like, you know, deal with that anyway.
Okay. Governments should be as concerned about foreigners as they are about their own citizens. No. Like, I get that the government has to put the interests of its own people first. That's kind of the point of it, isn't it?
I guess depending on the issue, like maybe they should be more concerned about their own citizens, since I don't know, they're the ones like living there, like, well, foreigners, like, there's like very little to do like with the state, unless, but in certain maybe few situations, like, you know, national security, there could be like some concerns with foreigners, but yeah, that's about it.
I'm not saying we should be indifferent towards the plight of other people, but I generally think the government of the United States is supposed to represent Americans. The government of Mexico is supposed to represent Mexicans, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, like we should try to keep our commitments to our allies like where we can, but generally yes, like there is a difference like in terms of how you evaluate like between an American citizen versus a non-American. Just in terms of how the government should value their concerns.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think in general, on that point, citizens obviously have to take priority. So it's one of the benefits of citizenship.
All people, regardless of factors like culture or sexuality, should be treated equally. I'm treated equally under the law. Yeah. If somebody has really divergent values from me, like they're a Nazi, I don't mind calling them a scumbag. Like, the question is treated equally under the law or me personally? Because I treat people differently based on.
Well, it's
Not on their
factors like
sexuality.
cultural or sexuality. Like it's not really talking about beliefs.
Fair enough, but isn't culture beliefs?
Yeah, culture's.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I guess it depends like what you mean by culture.
I'm gonna go with generally agree.
The culture of Nazi Germany.
Right. Yeah, I don't. So yeah, I'll just go generally agree and leave myself some wiggle room there because I mean, what if your sexuality is you're a pedophile? Like, obviously, I'm not gonna treat you equally. So, but generally speaking, I think you should treat people equally. It is important that we further my group's goals above all others. What is my group being? What? I guess like white people, men. No, I don't think that the government should be in the business of furthering various groups.
My group, like in parentheses.
Because that could be, I mean, that's kind of like, isn't that the essence of fascism? Is like, we're the real people. Yeah.
It's just like in group, out group.
Yeah. Okay. Military spending is a waste of money. Kevin, I know how you feel about this.
Yeah, you can probably guess how I feel about that. I've said before that it's the most important thing the government can spend money on, like the security of its people. So,
I think it's one of the only things the government should spend money on. And
I agree.
I'm a military-industrial complex shill, so I am obligated contractually by my employer to answer. Hard disagree.
So far left, you'll break the bar.
Oh, we got Kremlin Kyle. Kremlin Kyle's in the chat. I know how he would go on this one. He would say very hard agree for America and very strong disagree for Russia.
He would say,
I think I've definitely like heard like a lot of like military like spending wastage, but we could still make like a military spending like efficient, like maybe cut it somewhat, but still have our like spending commitments. So I'm more talking about like inefficiencies and waste rather than like getting out of like say Afghanistan. So
it's about the lowest it's ever been since before World War II, though. I mean, 3%. Back in the 80s, it was 8%, and at least in America, right? So, and you got two Cold Wars now. Back then, you only had one. So,
taxes should be increased on the rich to provide for the poor. I don't believe in redistribution. I'm curious to hear thoughts on why we should have it.
Wait, taxes are already mind-bogglingly high.
Oh yeah.
Raised? How about lower?
Yeah. I've been like talking to like some neoliberals, and apparently, rather than having income or corporate tax, they think we should have indirect taxes instead. And and I'm thinking maybe that's actually a good idea. Like that and even like layman centrist agrees with them on this. So.
Well, he's a neoliberal, though. I've debated him. He's a neolib. Like we debated on the suburbs, for example. He's a neolib.
Wait. I think he's definitely a quote unquote liberal, but like I don't think he's said he's like neoliberal. Like he has that globe thing, but I have that globe thing, and I'm more on the like right wing side of things, but.
Okay, well, there are right-wing neoliberals. Like, they used to be a bigger thing in the 80s and 90s than they are today. But no, that indirect stuff, you see that a lot. And sometimes what they'll tout as indirect, they actually do mean direct. Like, they'll do big land taxes and stuff like that that are really counterproductive on an economic level. I don't think that income taxes are necessarily that bad because everybody's got to work. So it's not like there's a big elasticity there. So you're able to draw taxes from people working. It's not like they're not going to work. I just think the taxes are too high in general. But the only arguments that I can see for in any way raising them or keeping them the same are if that money is specifically going to go to pay off the national debt and to the military. So.
I mean, the fact that we have such a high national debt just goes to show that the government can't be trusted to meet its commitments. So I maintain my no, it should not be raised. Maintaining family values is essential. I generally think that family values are a good thing. I guess again, and I hate to do this, but it depends on what you mean by family values.
Yeah, I love the family values question because it really
that just
all
means
depends on the
persecuting.
definition.
That means persecuting trans people and gay people and anybody who is not into Andrew Tate stuff, basically.
Well, I'm pretty sure I have a different definition of family values to all three of you. So this line of thinking definitely applies to me.
I don't think there's anything wrong with like a traditional family structure. Or like, I don't have a problem with a gay core family like that, or trans people in the core family. I think the family unit is generally good. I don't think it necessarily needs to be the traditional kind, but so I'm just going to stay neutral on it because it's a very loaded question. Even when protesting an authoritarian government, violence is not acceptable. I'm going to slightly disagree. I think there are instances where you have to be violent, and that's not to say it's a good thing, but there are definitely circumstances where you have to fight back. So.
Well, look at Ukraine back in 2014. Look at Syria for the last 10 years, right? That was a protest over freedom and bread, and it turned into a war. Now, in that case, it was Assad that escalated because he said Assad or we burn the country down, and then he burned the country down. But violence. If you're in an authoritarian system, you don't have the legal recourse to seek justice through civil means.
Yeah.
So you have to resort to violence. So
an authoritarian government is basically war against its own people. So disagree. No cultures are superior to others. Hard disagree.
Hard disagree.
Hard disagree.
There are definitely some cultures that are awful shitty. So
anyway. There.
Go on.
We did obviously hear of the cooking to Islamic cultures, but now I think Sargon is the self bigotry of low expectations, but now I think Sargon's kind of doing it with Russia, and I don't know, kind of losing respect for him because that's the same line of thinking that lefties do with Islam. So
I agree. Tariffs on international trade are important to encourage local production. Hard disagree.
Disagree.
Hard disagree.
From each according to his ability to each according to his needs.
Hard disagree.
Hard disagree.
Oh, we found something we could all agree on.
What was that? Is that on my end? Oh.
Marx isn't bad. Well, there was a motorcycle outside. I think that's on my end.
Okay. Inheritance is a legitimate form of wealth. Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
I mean, how is it not? Somebody worked hard so they could give their money to their kids. If that's their will, that's their will.
And they were taxed on every penny of that during their life. So
yeah, inheritance taxes are literally double taxation, basically. So
religion
should play a role in government. Hard disagree.
And not officially, if it's a state official inspired religion by a religion, sure, but no in state enforcement of religion.
Hard disagree all the way.
Obviously,
I don't think they should be bringing that. You shouldn't be bringing your religious stuff to the public forum. It's not just I don't think you should show up, say, in an niqab or something if you're going to be in elected office, because that should be a secular place, like how they do it in France, basically, right?
So individuals are obviously free to practice their religion as they see fit. As far as political discourse, I don't think it should be illegal to bring up religious points, but I think a healthy society is one where they're dismissed.
Yeah,
His
like
private matters.
like what role would religion play in government? Like what role in particular would you identify that would be like an acceptable platform for like religion to play a role? Like I can't think of any.
Right. Okay. A hierarchical state is the best. I think it's inevitable. Like, you might
Wait,
not
how
like.
how could you have a state without it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, isn't it kind of hierarchical by definition?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the institution of the state is there's a head of state, and then there are civil servants, and there are elected officials in different branches. Or even without a democracy, you had hierarchies in feudalism, etc.
Mhm.
Hierarchy. Here's the thing about hierarchy: it doesn't actually matter like what your economics are or what your cultural values are, liberal, conservative, socialist, etc., whatever. Hierarchy is just a part of human nature. It's kind of like water or nuclear physics. Like an Islamic state like Pakistan has nukes. So does America. That doesn't make nukes an Islamic thing, right? It's like
Right.
same as hierarchy. Everybody has hierarchy, whether they're communists like China or capitalists like America. It's a fact of life, like drinking water or physics or whatever. It's hierarchy. It's like if you have a society, you have hierarchy. So
Hmm.
hierarchical state is the only state possible. So I almost see this as if it's asking about should we have a state, is honestly how I read that.
Well, I'm going to say disagree. It would be best if social programs were abolished in favor of private charity. I generally agree.
Yeah, I agree, with the exception that I think we should have a negative income tax to supplement or to substitute social programs.
So something more reformed. I would tend to
Yeah.
agree. I think cutting off. I mean, like, obviously, there's how things should be in my ideal world versus how I would go about reforming the system that we currently live in, and something of what you're talking about fits more in the latter. In my ideal world, it's largely handled by through private means. So I'm just gonna say agree.
Sorry guys, but I have to go quick. It's pretty late, but it's been a great talking with you all.
All right, take
Have a
care,
good
man.
night.
Thanks for hopping on.
Have a good
Yeah,
night.
thanks, and yeah, I guess thank you, Steven, for like having me on. Like, and I guess Kevin, maybe we'll talk sometime. Maybe we'll DM on Twitter. But like,
Yeah.
bye.
Yeah,
Later.
good night.
Okay, then there were 3.
Yeah.
Churches should be taxed the same way other institutions are taxed. I agree, but I don't think institutions should be taxed. So-
See, that's where I would sympathize with a libertarian on that issue, because like in the spirit of the question, like yeah, if you don't believe in taxation generally, like across the board, then yeah, like it's reasonable to disagree with that question.
so I'm just gonna say agree because
Oh, you are going to agree.
well, no, churches should be taxed in the same way as other institutions are taxed. I guess.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So
means-
yeah, in that sense, then we're all in agreement then.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
other institutions shouldn't be taxed. They should get the same standards as the church. The church shouldn't be held to the standard as other people. I think that it should go the other way. That's my
Sure.
opinion. Yeah. So actually, I'll call hard agree. The chase progress to chase progress at all costs is dangerous. I just talked about Soviet collectivization, agriculture, and that how they were chasing progress in a sense, and that they killed millions and millions of people. So I guess agree, because I don't know, using force to achieve what you think will be progress can definitely end poorly.
Yeah.
But obviously, like, if you're chasing progress in your personal life, that's perfectly laudable. Or like, if your business is trying to be the best, I think that's laudable. But if you're using violence in the equation, then it's not good.
Well, I think there's a lesson to be learned there, which is if you start in a really bad place, but you want to reform it in a progressive way, you got to tread carefully. I think the best example of this that I can think of right now is Saudi Arabia, where MBS is doing some reforms. Women can drive now and whatnot. But if he does everything at once, then the clerics that hate the royals will just overthrow them and set up an Islamic state like ISIS in Saudi Arabia. And so in order to balance basically not having the religious institutions overthrow the government, but also moving in the direction that he wants, which is a more progressive direction, he has to kind of go slowly. And so that's why I kind of see Saudi Arabia as like a 50-year trajectory to get to a place like where the UAE is at right now. And people have said, they're like, oh, well, why doesn't he just do everything at once if he's about that or whatever? It's like, well, because then there would be a coup by the Islamic Wahhabist clerics. So yeah, it's definitely dangerous if you're in a system like that where you're trying to reform it. You can't do it all overnight. Otherwise they'll remove you and then you'll go backwards. So
Yeah, I agree. It is important that we work as a united world to combat climate change. Hard disagree.
yeah, I disagree. Like the problem is you have bad faith actors that collaborating with them is just going to result in them taking you for a fool, like China, basically,
Yep.
like Russia.
If we accept migrants at all, it is important that they assimilate into our culture. I strongly agree. Thoughts?
I'm
Yeah, no, I
neutral
agree.
on it.
You're neutral on assimilation?
Yeah, no, I'm neutral on it in the sense that there are a lot of people, like I know a lot of people that are, immigrants and whatnot that come to Canada and everything. And a lot of people are, they're very strong with their own sort of culture and whatnot. And it's not really an issue, and it doesn't really prevent them from like integrating into society and being successful or whatever. I think it really depends how we define culture, because if we mean culture is liberal capitalism, then yeah, that's important. But if we mean culture like white Canadian culture, then no, I would say it doesn't really matter. Like you don't have to act like a white Canadian to be successful in Canada, And so, but I would say in some cases it's more important than others where the culture is not benign. Like there are different cultures where, it's not really an issue, but then there are certain cultures that encourage, violence and whatnot and intolerance. And if it's a culture that encourages intolerance and invasiveness, that sort of thing, then yeah, then that's not going to be something that's able to integrate well. And so in that case, yeah, you'd want to aim for some degree of assimilation there. But I genuinely don't think like, like meme sort of stuff or whatever is that much of an issue. I think as long as you embrace like liberal capitalism and whatnot and agree to follow the law and everything, I don't really see that much of an issue in like not acting like, say, a typical white Canadian or whatever,
And
that's where I'm coming from.
To be clear, I'm not talking about acting like a typical white Canadian. I'm talking about accepting the values of liberal capitalism and all.
Yeah, I think the reading of the question, I think, at least to me and Steve, is like definitely just abiding by like liberal capitalist society, like accepting the rule of law that we have.
But given your the points you brought up, Kevin, I'm going to change it to slightly agree.
Well, yeah, if you put it hard agree, my guess is this test is going to code you as being a racial nationalist, even though that's not.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Like, I guarantee it.
You got to figure out how to game it.
Yeah.
The stronger the leadership, the better. Okay. Oh boy, like fascist leaders are awful strong, according to some people. But like, also, you don't want weak and feckless leaders.
Yeah, who do you want? Do you want some hot girl partying, or do you want like a stern, tough guy smoking a cigarette?
You're talking about the Finland Kim Jong-un one.
Well, you see, the thing is, you could have a strong woman like Hillary Clinton, for example. You could also have a very weak dude like Justin Trudeau. So It's not a sex-based thing. I totally agree with this one because here's the thing, right? If we're talking about liberal democracies, I've always said, I'm like, I wish we had leaders like George Bush. I wish we had leaders like Tony Blair. I wish we had leaders like Ronald Reagan, because what we got right now, Joe Biden, Justin Trudeau, these people are not going to deliver us from destruction in the Cold Wars. Luckily for them, we don't have term limits here, but I don't think Trudeau will be in power in 10 years, and Biden definitely can't be. There are term limits, but if we keep having this weak leadership like Trump, Obama, Biden, Trudeau, we're not going to win. We're not going to win. So we need strong leaders.
So I'm going to split the baby here because it will register me as a fascist if I go the farthest one, I think. So generally,
yeah, call you a
strong,
liberal fascist.
right? Strong leadership is good overall.
Yeah,
but
we're
we
going to
don't
make
want
sure it's on the bottom right quadrant, not that top right.
Right.
Mm.
A united world government would be beneficial to mankind. I disagree.
I agree. I think the goal of humanity should be one country by 2500, 3000 at the latest. And it should basically look like, if I had it my way, combination of Australia, Canada, the US, and the UK. So,
I mean, if it was one world government along those lines, I'm obviously more sympathetic to it, but I'll just move to slightly disagree.
yeah, the problem is if you put it as agree here, it's going to think you're like some globe neoliberal who wants the UN with China and Russia and stuff. And,
Right. My religious values should be spread as much as possible. I mean, I'm not religious, but I do believe my values should be spread. So
Yeah, my atheist values.
my anti-theist values.
right. So there we go. Agree. Our nation's values should be spread as much. Okay. Changing that one because this one is more along that line. International aid is a waste of money. It usually is, to be honest, but not always. So I'm going to say agree.
I'm going to say neutral.
Okay.
It depends.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm pretty neutral to the question.
Yeah, that depends. I support regional unions such as the European Union. Generally, yeah. I think they can do good.
I don't support the EU, but I want CANZIC. I want a common market with Anglo countries. So I guess I'm neutral.
Okay. Victimless crimes such as drug use should not be crimes at all. Strongly agree. Anybody not agree?
No, I'm neutral on that because I don't think hard drugs should be legal. So
Okay.
Like drug use, like the use of drugs? No, like I don't think the use of drugs should be illegal.
well, I don't think like you should go to prison for using it. I think addiction is something that should be treated, but I also don't think they're victimless. I mean, I debated a guy called Liberty Lockdown, and we talked about this, and he even admitted to me that selling hard drugs wasn't victimless, that there was a victim involved and that they did ruin families. But what he told me was that he felt that the liberty of somebody to ruin their family outweighed any government intervention case there. And I thought it was interesting how I had a libertarian admitting that it was harmful, but he just said that it wasn't that important for the government to intervene. And so for me, I don't even think it's victimless, but I don't think that throwing the books at dealers on the street trying to make their ends meet is the solution. I think intervening in Mexico and taking out the cartels once and for all is the solution. So,
well, I feel like the question of like drug use versus distribution is kind of a different. It's a different context that you're asking about the legality. Like if you're talking about like somebody who's distributing like felony quantity levels of like methamphetamine, like I think that's something the government should look at that differently than just somebody who's using the drug for recreational purposes.
Okay.
yeah, I think in general though, I think the world would be a better place. Without stuff like crystal meth and whatnot. So
It is important that the government follows the majority opinion even when wrong. Strong disagree.
strong disagree.
Yeah, strong disagree.
Climate change is currently the greatest threat to your way of life. No,
Strong
strong
disagree.
disagree. climate activists are a bigger threat to my way of life. Wars do not need to be justified to other countries.
Strong agree.
I don't know. You want allies, don't you? Like, I think international reputation matters. But
No, well, that's the reason why the Gulf War in the 1990s, why it only liberated Kuwait, because George H.W. Bush wanted to get like France and all these countries on board. And so that means no liberating Iraq, no solving the problem. And then we have to deal with everything 10 years later. So I've said before, I'm totally fine. I'm not like go to Loam, sort of thing. I'm totally fine with bringing allies on board. I'm totally fine with as a coalition as big as possible. My only caveat is I'm not going to water down my resolve to get more people on board. I'll do it alone if I have to. You're better off as a lion alone than as a pigeon with fellow pigeons. So
I'm going to say slightly agree, because I do think you should try and make the case as best as possible, but ultimately do what's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there should be inherently some level of justification for what you're doing. Like otherwise, any country like Russia could just use that excuse. But yeah, like generally speaking, the United States. I'm of a similar
Russia
mind to
justified.
Kevin on like Unitarian action.
But Mike, Russia did justify the war, though. They said that they were going in to denazify Ukraine. They justified it. That was their justification. So
Yeah, but I mean that's like a bullshit
I
justification.
agree. But my point is, countries don't actually need to say anything. They can, but they don't need to.
Okay.
Like, because if Russia gave like a 500-page reason why they're going in, or they just say, oh, we're going in because Nazis, they're both equally dumb. They're both equally wrong. And so my point is, America can say why America's going into, say, Panama or going into Iraq, but America doesn't have to. And America definitely, and here's the key point, America or any country, any Western country should not water down the scope of the intervention in order to get France on board or to get Germany on board. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
Okay.
Democracy is more than a decision-making process. Technically, no, but what we think of as Western liberal democracies are way more than just having elections. So I'm going to say strongly agree.
Yeah, liberal
Right.
democracy, yes, but Russia and Hungary are technically democracies. They're just anti-liberal ones. So
Again, I'm gaming the test here because I think I know what it's getting at.
yeah.
So, okay, genetic modification is a force for good even on humans. I tend
Yeah.
to agree.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it could be used towards terrible ends, but fuck that. I want to have.
Yeah, like
laser-
I think like bioengineering, like experimentation on the human body, like generally is a very, very positive thing.
No,
like
I
the-
totally agree.
I'm
Yeah,
going
to
strong
impact the
agree.
longevity of our lives, like can get rid of like a lot of serious diseases. Like
Like
absolutely.
Russell Brand sat down with this woman the other week who was advocating that GMOs were like some globalist plot against humans and stuff. And it's like, but wait, the thing is, she was from a country where GMOs, if they didn't exist, like literally millions of people would die in her country. And it's like, what? You're against that? You want people to starve? Like, GMOs are based. So GMOs are based, fertilizer's based. She's against both. So
That's really dumb.
Yeah.
My nation is great. Strongly agree. America
mine,
is
a
great.
lot of them aren't.
Yeah, it depends where you live, I guess.
Canada's pretty cool. Fascist Russia, not so much. So
Right. If I lived in Russia, it'd be a strong disagree.
Yeah.
Oppression by corporation, and then I'd be visited. There'd be a knock on my door. which
yeah,
is
there'd be a knock on your door, like, we're sending you to Gulag.
proving
Yeah.
the point. Right.
Can't stream this in a lot of countries.
Oppression by corporations is more of a concern than oppression by governments. Strong disagree.
Wait, what is I gotta ask, what's oppression by corporations? Like, are corporations like roaming the streets with like thought police, like, oh, you gotta wear a covering or something, or we're gonna beat you? Like, do corporations do that?
The people who would answer yes on or agree on this, I suppose, would be like, yeah, man, Twitter can take your free speech away by banning you, or they would say things like that.
But you don't have a right to a contract with Twitter.
I agree, which is why I'm saying strongly disagree.
Yeah,
There's
or
also
people that think that work is like wage slavery.
yeah, or
Okay,
that
but
yeah,
you don't have to work there. You can work somewhere else. You can start a co-op.
you have to work, otherwise you'll starve, Kevin. So,
But that's
Yeah,
true in
man.
socialism as it's true in capitalism, and the reason why is it's kind of like a hierarchy thing. That's actually politically neutral. That's just because we don't have infinite resources. So
that's true in hunter-gatherer societies. If you didn't hunt
Yes.
the woolly mammoth, the tribe would starve.
what they do is the tribe would kick you out. You'd be gone. So
And then you'd be in the wilderness.
yeah, the one who does not work shall not eat. That's
Hey
that's
man,
how it goes.
you're
so.
stranded on Coconut Island. Like,
Yeah, but here's
What are
the
you
funny
gonna
thing
do?
about that. I'll say one more thing about that question before we move on. The thing that's amazing is that the only economic system in history where it's actually feasible on a fairly big scale to actually not work and for the system to survive, for it to be sustainable, is capitalism. Because in capitalism, if you work hard enough and you save up enough money and you invest it, you could actually buy enough investments that yield enough for you to live on without having to actively work. And, depending on dividends and stuff, you might not have to do anything potentially, depending on how passive your investments are. That was never a thing throughout history. Even the kings back in the day still had to do work. They still had to lead wars. They still had to meet with diplomats and stuff. Even the King of England had to work harder than you have to work under capitalism if you make the right investments. So funny enough, capitalism's the only system that works so you don't have to. So
Good point. All authority should be questioned.
oh, last
Strongly
one.
agree.
Yeah, strongly agree.
Yeah.
unless we're in a liberal democracy with an elected leader that's legitimate and it's a time of war or great crisis, then no, all authority should not be questioned. So I'm with Machiavelli on that one. At that point, you defer to martial law and to the leadership. So that's where I'm at. Otherwise, yes. But if
Fair.
we're in World War III now,
Okay. Economic access, I got a market. Go figure, 74.4. I'm surprised it's not higher, but diplomatic access, nation 59.4, 40.6 for the world. Civil access, 63.1% liberty, 36.9% authority. Societal access, progressive, 64.9, 35.1. So I've taken this test before. I'm a neoliberal, according to this.
neoliberal.
I've taken this test before, and I can't remember the results I got, but they probably were not far off from this. But I'm going to own the neoliberal. That's what I am. This is going up on Twitter. Cool.
You're gonna have to rebrand your whole channel.
Yeah.
But it's just funny because neoliberalism is such a wide breadth of political communities, because it's everything from like Margaret Thatcher and Reagan fans out to the right to like Pinochet fans, all the way on the left to basically like almost Demsocky type folks who want to abolish the suburbs and stuff. And it's like, it's such a huge label, and I don't identify with any of it personally, but
Cool. Well, we've been going for an hour and a half. Test is over. I think I'm going to log off. Anybody got anything more to say?
yeah, everybody subscribe to Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, most undersubbed political content creator on YouTube, man.
Yeah, you're almost at 20K. Like we got you to like 100K. Then you can get
In the
that check mark.
perfect world, this guy would have like the viewers that like Hassan has.
Oh, absolutely. Like because here's the thing, right? Hassan, half the time, more than half the time, he's not actually adding any sort of commentary. He's just watching other people's stuff. There's no There's no value there. You know?
There's no added value.
Now,
Mhm.
granted, his viewers determine that there is value there, otherwise they wouldn't watch. But my point is that his viewers have really low standards, and so
Hey man, I appreciate your kind words. Really appreciate you guys coming on, Mike.
Well, thank you.
Kevin.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's good to finally talk with you, Mike. That's your name, right? Your real name.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Kevin,
Likewise.
always good. Always good to talk with you, bud. Thank you for watching, everyone. Have a good night.
Yeah, have a good night, folks.
Have a good night.
Peace.